In the shadowed corners of the Kline family estate, where whispers clung to the walls like cobwebs, Ivy had always been the silent middle child, weaving the fragile threads of their unspoken pact. But tonight, as thunder rattled the ancient bones of the house, the weight of buried betrayals pressed too hard, urging her toward a reckoning that could unravel everything she held dear. The storm outside echoed the chaos within, drawing her deeper into the dim corridors where truths waited to be unearthed. The hallway stretched like a vein in the old mansion's heart, walls peeling like sunburnt skin under the flicker of a single bulb. Rain lashed the windows, a storm's fury mirroring the one brewing inside me. I fumbled for the recorder in my pocket, its cold metal a lifeline in the dimness. My thumb hovered over the button. Press it, and the family code cracked. Leave it silent, and the lie festered another day. I pressed. The red light blinked awake, hungry for my voice. October 17th, 2 years ago. I whispered, the words scraping out like gravel. The storm was biblical, waves clawing at the cliffs below, thunder shaking the house like God's own judgment. I was in the study, pretending to read, but really just hiding from the dinner's forced cheer. Dad's laughter from the parlor, too loud, too brittle. Mara upstairs, nursing her grudge in silence. My breath hitched. Guilt coiled in my chest, thick as the fog rolling in from the sea. That night, I'd heard them. Dad and her, the woman from town, their whispers turning to gasps behind the cracked door. The betrayal wasn't just his affair. It was the fracture line through us all. The secret that turned our home into a tomb. I froze in the shadows, heart pounding against the walls of loyalty we'd built. Mara knew too, her eyes hollow the next morning. But I said nothing. We all swallowed it, choking on the pretense that silence stitched us together. Why didn't I speak? The recorder captured the tremor in my voice, unfiltered, irreversible. Because I chose this. Not fear, not the code. Me. I thought burying it kept us safe, like pressing a wound until it scarred over. But it rots us, doesn't it? The mirror at the end of this hall, cracked from that same storm, shows it, our faces distorted, strangers in our own reflections. I leaned against the wall, the wood groaning like a confession of its own. The storm outside howled louder, wind rattling the panes as if demanding I continue. Readiness flickered through the guilt, a spark in the dark. This tape, my voice etched in plastic, could be the first breach. Or the end. I stopped the recording, but the question lingered, heavy as the rain. Could this be the step that finally lets the truth breathe? As the echoes of that first recording faded, Ivy's fingers trembled on the recorder's button, the red light blinking like a heartbeat in the dim kitchen. She leaned against the counter, the same scarred oak where arguments had splintered the air years ago. Her mind pulled her under, no escape from the tide of memory. It started with the shouts, Father's voice, Jonas, booming like thunder off the sea cliffs outside. You think you know everything, Ivy? Stay out of it. His face had been a storm, veins bulging at his temples, eyes wild with something deeper than anger. Guilt clawed at her now, that familiar rot in her chest. She'd been 16, silent as always, the middle child vanishing into the walls of their crumbling mansion. The family code, loyalty meant zipped lips, no matter the poison seeping through the cracks. But that night, after the yelling faded to heavy breaths, she'd slipped into his study. Curiosity, or was it desperation? The desk drawer was ajar, papers spilling like accusations. She remembered the chill of the floorboards under her knees as she sifted through them. bank statements, emails printed in haste, cryptic notes scrawled in mother's looping hand, betrayal in black ink, Jonas's affair, the hidden payments to silence the other woman, the web of lies that had unraveled their world long before she knew. Her heart had hammered then, same as now, fear locking her throat. Why hadn't she spoken? The guilt surged, hot and accusing. She'd chosen the shadow, let the secret fester, thinking silence was love. A draft whispered through the house, drawing her gaze to the hallway mirror. There it was, the cracked spider webbing from the corner, a jagged line distorting her reflection into fragments. Jonas's fist, years back, during another rage. She saw herself split, the girl who hid, the woman who couldn't anymore. In his eyes that night, behind the fury, she'd glimpsed it, his own terror, the guilt mirroring hers, a shared fracture they both pretended whole. No more justifying the quiet. The documents burned in her memory, proof etched like scars. She had to face it. The truth wasn't buried. It lived in these recollections, demanding release. Could she claim it? Step into the light before the storm broke them all? Her breath steadied, guilt hardening into resolve. The recorder hummed on. With the resolve building from those memories, Ivy lingered in the shadowed doorway of the study, the air thick with the scent of old books and unspoken rot. Her father, Jonas, hunched over his desk like a sentinel guarding ruins, his pen scratching futile lines across a ledger that hadn't balanced in years. The recorder burned in her pocket, a secret pulse against her thigh. She pressed play, the faint whir lost in the creak of the house, settling like a guilty conscience. "Dad," she said, stepping into the flicker of lamplight that danced across the peeling wallpaper. "We can't keep doing this. The silence, it's eating us alive." He didn't look up. His shoulders stiffened, a fortress of tweed and denial. "Ivy, not now. There's work to be done." His voice was a low rumble, edged with the exhaustion of a man who'd built walls from whispers. Accusation flared in her chest, hot and righteous. How could he? The betrayal, his affair with Mara's tutor, the one that splintered them all those years ago, hung between them like smoke. She'd seen the letters once, hidden in his drawer, words that twisted love into lies. "Work? Is that what you call burying it? You're the one who started this code, Dad. Loyalty to silence, remember? But it's just a cage. For all of us." Jonas's hand trembled, the pen slipping. He glanced up then, eyes hollowed by shadows, and for a split second, she saw the fracture. Not anger, but terror. The fear of unraveling, of the mansion's peeling walls, finally giving way to the stormy sea beyond. He pushed back from the desk, turning towards the cracked mirror on the wall, a jagged scar from that night, when Mara had hurled a vase in rage. His reflection stared back, distorted, half his face swallowed by the split. Ivy caught her own in the edge, eyes wide, mouth a thin line. A girl, trapped in the same warped glass. She wanted to scream, to shatter it further, but the sight pulled her inward, the blame softening into something sharper, pity. He wasn't the villain. He was the warden, locked in with them. The code wasn't protection. It was a cold pact, binding their fears into chains. Her shame mirrored his. The night she'd found out, lips sealed by the same terror of ruin. If she spoke now, would it free them or drag them all under? Jonas cleared his throat, gaze dropping. "Some things, they stay buried for a reason, Ivy." But his voice cracked, the lie fraying. She stopped the recorder, the silence heavier now. As she backed away, the question clawed at her. If she took the step, broke the pact first, would it release them or seal the trap forever? Seeking an ally beyond the family's walls, the salt-laced wind whipped through the cracked open window of the seaside cafe, carrying the low rumble of the approaching storm. Ivy Kline sat rigid in the booth, her fingers twisting the frayed edge of a napkin, eyes darting to the door every few seconds. The recorder lay heavy in her coat pocket, a silent accusation against her years of zipped lips. She shouldn't be here. The family code pulsed in her veins like a warning. Silence binds, silence saves. Dora Mendoza slid into the seat opposite, her sharp gaze slicing through Ivy's facade. The journalist's notebook was already open, pen poised like a weapon. "You sound like hell on the phone, Ivy. What's eating you?" Not just the usual family fog. Ivy's breath hitched, anxiety coiling tight in her chest. She glanced at the empty tables around them, minimalist, shadowed by flickering fluorescent light that mimicked the house's peeling walls. It's everything. The betrayal, Dad's lies, Mara's distance. I found out that night, years ago, and I did nothing, kept quiet to protect us. Her voice cracked, but she pushed on, the words tumbling like waves against rocks. Sacrificing silence felt like carving out her own heart. Dora leaned in, unyielding. "Facts, Ivy, not ghosts. Who betrayed what? Dates? Names? Give me something solid, or we're chasing shadows." Her tone was urgent, a hunter's call, pulling Ivy from her internal storm. Ivy's hand trembled as she pulled out the recorder, its worn buttons glinting under the dim light. She pressed play, her own voice from last night spilling out. Raw confession of the midnight argument, Jonas's affair exposed in whispers, the family's pact to bury it. "This is it," she said, stopping the tape, her anxiety fracturing into resolve. "I can't carry it anymore. Help me dig. Proof, witnesses, whatever it takes to drag it into the light." Dora's eyes lit with purpose. She nodded, scribbling furiously. "I'm in. We start with records from that year. Old emails, bank slips. I'll pull strings at the paper, but you lead. Confront them. No more hiding." Trust sparked between them, a fragile alliance against the Kline fortress. Ivy felt the pressure shift. Word would leak back to the mansion. Jonas's control cracking, Mara's denial tested. As they mapped the plan, meetings, timelines, Ivy's fear ebbed, determination hardening her spine. The recorder slipped back into her pocket. No longer a secret, but a spark. Could this bond shatter the code, or would it just deepen the fractures? The sea roared outside, unanswered. Following the cafe meeting, dust motes danced in the slanted afternoon light, filtering through the mansion's cracked blinds, turning the cluttered attic into a hazy confessional. Ivy's fingers, slick with sweat, rifled through yellowed envelopes and dusty VHS tapes stacked like forgotten relics. Dora knelt beside her, notebook open, her journalist's eyes sharp as she cross-referenced dates scribbled in faded ink. "Here," Ivy said, voice tight, pulling a tape labeled Christmas '98. Her heart hammered, anxiety coiling like the storm clouds massing over the sea outside. What if this cracked the facade wider? The family myth of that holiday. Laughter by the fire, Jonas carving turkey, Mara beaming in her red sweater. Harmony, they called it. But Ivy knew better. The betrayal had slithered in that night. Father's secret affair with the neighbor's wife. Whispered shadows she'd buried deep. Dora slotted the tape into the ancient player, the machine whirring to life with a mechanical groan. Grainy footage flickered, the living room aglow. But wait, the timestamp read 11:47 p.m., not the early evening story. And there, in the corner, a woman's silhouette slipping out the back door. Not Santa's myth, but something rawer. Ivy's breath caught. That's not. We said everyone was asleep. Discrepancies piled up, like the papers spilling from a box at her feet. A hotel receipt, dated December 24th, tucked in father's old ledger. A letter, half burned, from the woman, pleading. The official tale unraveled thread by thread. Silence's code fracturing under the weight. Anxiety clawed Ivy's chest, her pulse a frantic drum. The past dragged her under, guilty waves crashing. But Dora's hand on her shoulder grounded her. This is it, Ivy. Proof. You're not alone in this hunt. Ivy nodded, the knot loosening into resolve. No more hiding. She grabbed another box, tearing it open. Amid receipts, a faded Christmas photo tumbled out. The family posed, smiles stiff. The cracked mirror in the hall reflecting their fractured edges. Father's arm around mother, but his eyes elsewhere. The myth of harmony stared back, brittle as the photo's curling edges. What would become of it now? This lie they'd clung to. Ivy set the photo aside, steeling herself. The truth demanded they chase it. No turning back. Downstairs, the family stirred, pressure building, answers looming. Armed with the attic's revelations, the hallway light flickered like a dying pulse, casting jagged shadows across the peeling wallpaper. Ivy's hand trembled as she gripped Mara's wrist, pulling her toward the cracked mirror at the end of the corridor. The sea outside roared, a distant thunder rumbling through the walls, mirroring the storm churning in Ivy's chest. Look, she whispered, her voice raw, urgent, as if the words might shatter the glass further. Mara's eyes, shadowed and defiant, met the fractured reflection. Two sisters staring back, splintered, incomplete. I can't keep pretending anymore, Ivy said, her breath fogging the cold surface. Fear clawed at her throat, thick and choking, the old terror of unraveling everything. That night, the betrayal flashed in her mind. The storm, howling like it did now, father's study door ajar, the low voices twisting into accusations. Jonas's hand on the other woman, not mother, but someone from the shadows of this town. Ivy had seen it all from the stairs, frozen, her silence sealing the wound like salt in a cut. You were there too, Mara, hiding in the dark, just like me. We both watched him shatter us. Mara jerked back, but Ivy held firm, their faces inches from the crack that bisected the mirror like a lightning scar. It warped their eyes, made Mara's gaze look haunted, pleading. Don't, Mara hissed, fear cracking her voice first. Raw, exposed, the anchor slipping. But Ivy pressed on, the monologue spilling out in jagged bursts. The clock struck 2, rain hammered the roof. He whispered promises to her, lies we both swallowed to keep this house standing. I stayed quiet because I thought it protected you, protected us, but it didn't. It buried us alive. Tension coiled between them, bodies rigid, breaths sinking in the dim light. Mara's hand rose, hovering near the glass, as if to trace the fracture. Vulnerability seeped in then, softening the edges of her fear. Her shoulders slumped, eyes glistening. I heard the door creak, she murmured, her voice a confession uncoiling. Saw her shadow leave, and him, broken. I told myself it was one storm, that silence would pass, but it poisoned everything. She leaned closer, their reflections merging in the split. Sisters, not whole, but touching the break together. The code cracked audibly in that moment. A faint groan from the old house, or maybe just their hearts. Truth peeled back the layers, revealing the emptiness silence had filled. No healing, only hollow echoes. Ivy's fear ebbed into something tender, exposed, a shared ache binding them. Would this joint, unraveling, topple the walls they'd built? The question hung, unanswered, as the sea surged louder, demanding more. With the sisters' bond tentatively mending, the dim hallway of the Kline mansion smelled of salt and neglect. The stormy sea outside, clawing at the windows like an impatient witness. Ivy stood rigid before the cracked mirror, its fractured lines splintering her reflection into jagged accusations. She had called him here, Jonas Kline, the unyielding patriarch, his footsteps echoing like a verdict on the creaking floorboards. The family portrait hung crooked on the wall beside them, a faded oil painting from better days, now marred by a hairline fracture snaking through their painted smiles, as if the canvas itself had absorbed the betrayal and split under the weight. "Dad," Ivy said, her voice a blade, honed by years of swallowed words. Anxiety coiled in her chest, tight as the recorder hidden in her pocket, capturing every breath. "You can't hide it anymore. The silence, it's drowning you. Tell me what it did to you. Admit it." Jonas loomed in the doorway, his broad shoulders squared against the flickering light from a single bulb overhead. His eyes, usually steel traps of control, darted to the portrait, then away. "Ivy, this is family business. We protect what's ours. Drop it." "No." She stepped closer, hunter's instinct surging through her veins, the passivity of her old self crumbling like the peeling wallpaper. Her heart hammered, anxiety twisting into something rawer, more exposed. "That night, when Mara found out about you and her best friend, the affair that gutted us all, you made us swear silence. But it's poisoned everything. Look at us." She gestured to the broken portrait, where his painted face seemed to leer with hidden shame. "That crack? It's you. It's what you buried." His face hardened, fists clenching at his sides. Tension thickened the air between them, electric and suffocating, pulling at both like riptides. "I did what I had to. For us. For you." Ivy shot back, her voice rising, sharp and charged. "Admit it wrecked you. The guilt eating you alive every night, staring at that sea like it's your judge. The betrayal wasn't just yours. It lodged in all of us. Say it." Jonas's breath hitched, his control fracturing like the mirror's edge. He turned to the portrait, fingers brushing the frame, as if to mend the irreparable. The storm outside roared, waves crashing in rhythm with the pulse in Ivy's throat. For a moment, silence held them captive, a rotting wound festering in the dim light. Then it broke. "Damn you! Ivy!" His shout erupted, not as command, but as a guttural wail, raw pain ripping through the walls he'd built. He slammed a fist against the portrait, the frame shuddering but holding, the crack widening just a fraction. "It destroyed me. Every lie I told to keep this family whole. It hollowed me out. I see it in my dreams, her face, Mara's tears. And I let it fester because I was too weak to face it." Tears streaked his weathered cheeks, his body sagging against the wall, exposed at last. The mighty Jonas Kline reduced to a man unmasked. Ivy froze, the anxiety ebbing into a stark vulnerability, feeling the echo of his agony mirror her own, the power of truth slicing through them both. She reached out, hesitant, but he flinched, the air between them humming with possibility, fragile as the storm's pause. Had he cracked open the door enough for the truth to flood in, or would the walls seal shut again? The fractures deepening within the family, now pushed toward the outside world, where the neighbor's living room hummed with forced civility, a circle of folding chairs crammed against faded floral wallpaper. Salt air seeped through the cracked windows, carrying whispers from the coastal street outside. Gossip about the Klines, the mansion's peeling secrets, the storm that never quite broke. Ivy sat rigid beside her father, Jonas, his hand a heavy anchor on her knee, eyes pleading silence. Mara hovered at the edge, arms crossed like a barrier, while Dora, notebook in hand, shot Ivy a nod sharp as a blade. The host cleared his throat, droning about community watch. But the real undercurrent was the betrayal no one named. Ivy's pulse thundered in her ears, anxiety coiling tight, sweat beating on her palms, the weight of years pressing down. What if her words shattered everything? Jonas leaned in, voice low. "Not here, Ivy. We protect our own." The room's eyes flicked toward them, neighbors murmuring, "Heard something about that family. Always so quiet." She glanced at Dora, the journalist's gaze steady. A lifeline in the dim lamplight. The choice burned. Swallow the truth again, or let it roar. Ivy's breath hitched, fear clawing at her throat. But she rose, legs unsteady, pulling Dora up with her. "I can't," she whispered to her father, shaking off his grip. The circle hushed as she stepped forward, Dora at her side like a co-conspirator. Outside, the shutters on the old house across the way hung wide open, flung back by the wind, exposing the shadowed interior to the gathering dusk, as if the town itself dared her to bare its bones. Ivy's voice cracked at first, raw and urgent. "It's time you all knew." She nodded to Dora, who slid photos across the coffee table, bank statements, emails, the cold proof of Jonas's hidden affair that had gutted them years ago. No accusations, just facts laid bare, dates, signatures, the betrayal that silence had nursed into poison. Jonas's face drained white, his control fracturing as neighbors leaned in, suspicions blooming aloud. "Knew it," one muttered. "That mansion's always reeked of lies." Mara flinched, but her eyes met Ivy's. A flicker of shared fracture. Dora's hand brushed Ivy's arm, their alliance solidifying in the tension, pulling her from the shadows. Anxiety ebbed into resolve, Ivy's words gaining steel. "This isn't about blame. It's about what we've let fester." The room crackled, the truth spilling communal now, silence crumbling under its weight. But as her voice rose, thundering against the walls, would the street outside, gossiping, judging, hold it without shattering? Building on that tense gathering, the salt-laced wind whipped through the coastal town square, where neighbors clustered like shadows under the flickering street lamps. Ivy Kline stepped into the circle, her hands trembling, the weight of years pressing on her chest. The family mansion loomed behind, its cracked windows like eyes watching. Mara stood rigid at the edge, arms crossed, Jonas beside her, face etched with the lines of buried storms. Dora nodded from the crowd, her notebook a quiet anchor. Ivy's breath hitched, anxiety coiling tight in her gut. No more silence. She pulled the recorder from her coat pocket, small, black, its red light a pulse of inevitability. Her thumb hovered, then pressed play. Her own voice crackled out, raw from nights alone. "It was 2 years ago, the night the lights went out. Dad, Jonas, you took the call. Mom's affair with the neighbor, the one who vanished with our savings. I saw the emails, the bank slips. I stayed quiet to protect us, but lies rot." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ivy's heart hammered, but she pushed on, action overriding fear. She held up photos, blurry prints from her hidden stash, time-stamped messages, a motel keycard receipt. "Exhibit 1, she said, voice breaking like waves on jagged rocks. She pinned them to a makeshift board Dora had rigged, the paper fluttering in the gust. Jonas's face drained white. "Ivy, stop this." His words choked as the recorder hummed on, capturing Mara's old voicemail. "We can't tell anyone. It'll destroy us." Mara lunged forward, eyes wild. "You traitor! After everything?" Tears streaked her cheeks, a scream tearing free, raw, guttural, shattering the family's iron code. Ivy didn't flinch. She clicked to the next file. Audio of Jonas's hushed confession to her weeks ago. His voice fracturing. "I covered it to keep us whole," the crowd murmured, phones lighting up as photos spread. Ivy's pulse thundered, but the knot in her chest loosened. Truth spilling like the stormy sea beyond, unstoppable. Jonas collapsed to his knees, sobs racking him, hands clawing the dirt. Mara clutched Ivy's arm, not in anger now, but desperation, their shared silence crumbling into wails that bridged the chasm. Neighbors whispered judgments, but Ivy stood taller, the recorder's glow fading as she switched it off. Liberation washed over her, sharp as the rain starting to fall. "I want to start over. Really start. I'll document it all, every jagged piece, and we'll build something new from the ruins." No more shadows. Mara stood rigid, her eyes fixed on the horizon, where black clouds boiled, lightning forking like veins of doubt. The exposure had stripped them both. Father's control shattered, the family's code of loyalty exposed as a cage. "Start over?" Mara's words cracked, laced with the terror of what came next. Isolation from the town, the gossip swelling like this tide. "You think words fix this? After everything spilled out there, it'll drown us. What if the truth just breaks us for good?" The sea surged closer, foam clawing at their feet, a wild mirror to the turmoil between them, uncontrollable, inevitable. Ivy stepped nearer, the wind whipping her hair, her heart pounding with the lie she'd clung to for years. Silence as protection. "No more. It already has." She pressed, her voice urgent, intimate, like a whispered vow. "But hiding, that's what poisoned us. I'm done being the keeper. Let me be our voice, for once." Mara's breath hitched, the broken trust flickering in her gaze, sharp as the salt sting on their skin. The thunder cracked overhead, shaking the ground, and for a moment, the storm felt like the end. But then, slowly, Mara's hand reached out, fingers brushing Ivy's, tentative, warm, a bridge over the abyss. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a spark of hope, cautious as the first raindrop on parched earth. The waves kept pounding, relentless, but in that touch, the question hung unspoken. Could this gale herald truth's dawn, or only drag them under?